Hello scrappers and planet lovers, Tin Man here with another video. So one of my viewers asked if I could do a video just focusing on small copper bearing motors. So I'm happy to do so. As you can see behind me, I have a number of small motors that have come out of different electronics and appliances. So I am going to talk about where these motors came from. I am also going to talk about which ones, in my opinion, are worth taking the copper out of, separating it, and which ones are actually going to just waste my time if I do that and throw them into copper bearing motor pile untouched. The nice thing about copper bearing motors is due to the increase in price of copper, they have also gone up in price. I can actually bring these copper bearing motors in as is. And currently in London, Ontario, they are now going for 41 cents a pound Canadian, which is awesome. And some of them, as I said, are not worth my time to take apart, so I will bring them in whole. Some of these, however, are definitely worth my time because to separate that number 2 copper, currently number 2 copper is going for $4.48 a pound. So as I said, going to go through some of them right now, show you, in my opinion, not only where to find them, but which ones are worth separating. So the first ones I do want to address are these small motors that you will see like this. These will come off of circuit boards. I have a couple here. This came out of a DVD drive, taken out of a computer tower. I also had a couple that came out of this. And in my opinion, these ones are definitely not worth taking apart. For this video, I have actually gone ahead and split one open. As you can see inside, that is the copper. It is very small, very difficult to get this steel off. I actually used a grinder. They are not very heavy, so the copper inside of that is definitely not even a half an ounce. So not worth it in my opinion. As I can see, the nice thing about these is they do add up, however. So I will throw these into, as I said, just my copper bearing motor as is. And I have 5 of them. I do have to make sure I remove these 2. I will throw the rest of this into my tin or shred pile, which is going to give me 10 to 13 cents a pound. But these motors, putting them all together, will give me for sure 40 cents a pound. The one that came out of this drive, you will see sometimes that have a circular top. When I pop them off, this is what I will get. And these I will actually take apart because they are already exposed. Again, not much copper, but what I will do is I will just cut with a pair of side cutters the top of that, and I will just pull off the copper. This copper will now go into number 2, and I do want to make sure that I explain or clarify, even though this is shiny and bright, some people think that this is going to go into bare bright copper. Bare bright copper only pertains to copper that is thicker than 16 gauge. So all of your motor wire is going to go actually into number 2. So this, as well as other motor wire like this that is sometimes red coated. This is all going to be number 2. So again, and that's because it is all less than 16 gauge. So these I will take apart, but again, not necessary depending on your time. I'm not going to get a lot of copper from this, but I will because it is easy to cut these. Another one that I definitely will find as well going on with these electronics is, here's a smaller motor, but these ones, what's interesting about these is they do have a nice stick here, and I will actually take a pair of pliers or side cutters, and I will actually cut these. This is going to give me, as you can see inside of that, this is brass. This is going to go into my clean brass, and this currently right now is going for about $3.80 a pound for brass. So I will take this off. I will leave the rest of that little bit in there, so I will take as close as I can, cut it, and this will just go into my motor pile. But I definitely want to make sure I get this brass because I'm going to make more in the long run from brass. something like this. This came out of a fan. I have a couple of these, and there is just a plastic coating around this. I am not going to be able to open this, but if I was to smash this case, what it's going to reveal is a motor like this. These ones are not worth taking apart. This copper winding is very difficult to take out. You are not going to be able to just take a grinder and peel it out like your other copper motors. And that's because there is a wax coating on this. So even if you cut those wires, it is not going to come out. I have seen some people throw these into the fire to burn off the wax. In my opinion, given the environmental effects and also the danger with burning it, some scrap yards will not accept wire if it's been burnt. It is definitely not worth it in my opinion. So this will just go as is into my copper bearing motors. These are also the inner core of, for example, your vacuum cleaner motors. Some people will not take the motors anymore out of vacuum cleaners because they believe the windings are aluminum. And yes, a lot of times the outer shell, for example, this coil will be aluminum. These fit inside of them. The inner core, these will always be copper. So again, they will have to be separated. You do want to make sure you do a scratch test anytime you have what looks to be copper windings to make sure it's copper. If when you scratch it, it is a metallic color underneath, you definitely, it's going to be aluminum. So you do want to make sure you separate it from your copper. But these cores, as I said, best thing is just throw them in as is into your copper bearing motor pile and get the 41 cents. Okay, so the nice thing about these is they definitely add up. They are very heavy because of the steel around it. And I actually have just right here, there's 1.5 pounds here. There's another 1.5 pounds here. So I actually have 3.7 pounds just with these three motors. So at 40 cents a pound, I have over $1. So that's great there. Another motor I have here, this is actually, I just got out of a paper shredder. I still have the cord that goes with it. So the cord is definitely going to be separated, go into my 60% appliance wire, which is going to give me $2.03 for this. But for this one, this copper winding, I am going to take out of here. Very simple to do. You know, because it's exposed, I'm not going to have to do that much work. The only thing I would have to do is just take out the last screw. As you can see, the top's going to pop off. The inner core, this is going to go again. I'm not going to touch this because it is difficult to do. So this is going to be just thrown in with that pile. But this, because it is simple to do, I am just going to actually cut down this side and this side. Going to turn it over and I'm going to pop this out. And as I said, this copper wire is going to be number 2, and it's going to give me $4.48. The nice thing about the rest of this motor is this tin or steel is going to go into steel pile, and the rest of this is going to give me 10 to 13 cents a pile or a pound. And because it is, if you look at it, bring up the camera, this is not a solid piece of metal. So the reason I can't call this steel is because steel is classified as steel by the thickness. It has to be thicker than a 1/4 inch. These are all individual plates, and sometimes they will definitely come off. Sometimes they're welded together. So it does not count just because they're stuck together. So this will be tin shred. And that's still great because 10 to 13 cents a pound for this is an excellent price. So this is 100% scrappable. And as I said, you know, the colors of this, even though it looks shiny new, bare bright, the thickness is not 16 gauge, so it is going to be number 2. Another one we have is off of dishwashers. I love these things, even though this is thin threaded. It comes off dishwasher. Here it is. Actually, I've pulled out the metal. Very simple to do. Just gonna actually pop the top. As you can see, there is my top. Gonna just open that. And sometimes I will split them. I'm going to do that. Right now, I always just use a pair of side cutters, which is awesome. No, that's not good. Drop it, but that's all right. So I'm just going to use, side cutters are great. Or also, you have your tin snips, if you will. I can use either. It just depends on your preference. But all I do is just kind of bend the sides. As you can see there, just gonna pop it up. Make sure I get all the plastic, cut it. And these are going to just make this copper slide off, which is awesome. So just going to pull this. As you can see, just comes off. There is some great copper right here. Just gonna bolt it up like that and put it into my number 2. You do wanna make sure as well, and I should have specified this as well about the scratch test. It does look like copper. I know that this is copper, but you do wanna make sure before you start breaking it all down, the scratch test. So all I do is take a pair or a file. As you can see, the inner coating of that is still copper. All of these are gonna be copper, but a lot of times things like these will look like copper. If I scratch it, if it reveals a metallic underneath, it's aluminum. This one, as you can see, is copper. But unfortunately now, you do have to make sure more than ever you do the scratch test, because manufacturers are replacing the copper with aluminum because it's cheaper. So definitely make sure you check that. Microwaves, another great one. This is the small motor that's off of a fan. Again, it has that nice spool of copper as well as some little copper there. These are very easy to do. I just put this into my vise. I hit this with the hammer. As you can see, it's just pinned in. This whole bracket's gonna pop out, and I will take the rest of that spool of copper. So these are the microwave fans. Here is a type of motor, I guess, off of the circuit board that comes off of microwaves, the e-waste or the circuit board. These are awesome. I actually have a video just showing the little pieces of the aluminum or copper donuts, if you will, that come off of circuit boards. You definitely don't want to pass up on those. It definitely adds up. So some really nice copper there off of a circuit board. Another motor that some people do forget on the microwave is the motor on the bottom that turns the plate. Very nice score of copper. You can see the prongs are actually copper. These are very easy to open. All I'm gonna do is actually just take a hammer. Just hit it a couple times. Just gonna pull up now the metal plate, if I can reach it under there, which I should be out. There it is. So here is some tin, couple springs that have plastic in it. Just gonna now grab this spool, make sure you can see it. Just put my screwdriver under it, pop it out of there, there you go. So some more tin or shred. There is some copper that I'm gonna take off. These pieces of copper would go into number 1 copper. It's not much, but I definitely throw it in, these 2 prongs. And there is some more beautiful copper that is gonna go into my copper bin. So this too, very easy to do. I just take a pair of side cutters, just fold this plastic up. You can see it just folds out. Look at that, awesome. So nice spool, okay? And I'm eventually just gonna get a small ball like that. So little motors off of your microwave. Another great one that I find, because I find tons of fans, are little motors like this, okay? That doesn't look like a lot of copper, but very simple to take apart. I have a huge video actually on taking apart motors. These ones, all I'm gonna do actually is just take an angle grinder. I would grind all the way down this. I'm gonna do that for this video because it's very simple to do. Some people will use, for example, tin snips. You can do that as well. And I am gonna do, just for the sake of time and speed, the grinder. I am also going to do this one. Very simple. All I would do is actually just take a grinder and make an incision here, here, and then turn it over and pull it out of my bench. So I'm just gonna do that right now. I'll put it in my vise just so I'm not holding it. But again, very simple to do. The sparks did not come from the copper. Copper is sparkable, if you will. It actually came from the steel. It just showed me that I cut through. And again, all I'm going to do is use science, put this into my lever or my bench here, use leverage. Unfortunately, I didn't have it in my vise all the way. Make sure it is clamped. I also always, for safety reasons, put on safety glasses. You definitely don't want to risk your eyesight or any type of projectiles, as you saw there. And the problem with this stuff is there are some times where the plates will separate. As you can see, the plates do separate. So you want to make sure that your copper is pushed up as well. It helps set it through or slide it through, especially depending on the thickness of your wire. This wire is thicker than some. This motor came from a small vacuum. As I said, a lot of times your vacuum cleaners, you want to check to make sure that it is copper, so we do the scratch test. Okay, so that is very important. So it's going to slide out now. As you can see, I just work at it. There we go. So there is some copper. Okay, and it all adds up. So look how nice that copper is. You can see the proof, it is copper. The rest of this, once I pull that copper out, is going to go into my tin shred. This one, as I said, I'm just going to work around the side of it. There is going to be my ring of copper. I do want to make sure I get that wiring off. There is the proof inside. And all I would do for this last thing is, to make it easier, I just take a type of punch and use a hammer and just punch it through. So just going to use this punch here. Hammer goes right through. Slide it out. There are different methods, but in my opinion, this is the easiest, safest. Okay, and as you can see, it is starting to slide out. I would just take a screwdriver and pop the rest of it out. So there you go. So this is out of a fan. Very easy to do. So again, in my opinion, common places, best ones to take are your microwave small motor from the bottom of the microwave. Definitely your fans from the microwaves, the copper there. Fans, making sure that you check that it is copper. Definitely, even though they are small, they are worth the copper in them. Dishwashers, your inner cores, better just to leave as is. And your little teeny tiny motors like this, leaving them as is. So hopefully that answered the question for you. Just to prove that this all adds up, I throw it all into a bag. This bag is 33 pounds right now and climbing. So 33 pounds times $4.48. I've got a great score there. A lot of that is just the copper motor weight and pile that I'm getting from common appliances. Doesn't matter the size of them, it all adds up. So again, hopefully that answered the question on copper bearing motors, small ones. Please comment down below, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Tin Man out.